Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and you're probably hearing a lot of noise in the background because we're having a lot of wind today, and I have tied up my pie pans to some of my containers, so they're just flapping in the wind. That keeps the birds away. It works as good as a scarecrow. So if you have some aluminum foil pans, just tie them to some jute string onto your containers, or buy 2 sticks out into a garden, or 3 sticks, ever how long you want to put them, and it will keep a lot of the predators such as birds, crows, magpies, things like that at bay. So what am I doing out here today? I am doing a little bit of some hilling up. We've got corn that is about 6 to 8 inches tall now. So it's about, I planted it on around May 15th, and it is getting a few weeks old now, and it needed a little bit of some hilling up, as well as we planted in some beans around the corn, just in between every corn stalk, or every couple of corn stalks, sometimes 3, depending on how far apart they are and how healthy they look. So I've gotten that done. I put some half runners in between each of these, and then we just did a little bit of hilling up. We don't do a whole lot right now since they are so small, but we did want to just loosen up the soil around the base of them and then hill it up around the corn stalk. So it will make them grow a lot quicker and a lot bigger. And then a little bit later on, probably in another week or 2, I'll be putting some fertilizer, which will be organic fertilizer, in between each of the rows. So I will just be digging a spot right in between the rows, and then I will put in some organic fertilizer, and then I will wet it in unless it rains that day. I'm hoping to catch it where it rains. It's been pretty much raining here every day, actually. We just got over a little bit of a shower earlier, and it already dried up a little bit, but we have been having quite extensive rain showers here. So we're loving it. We're really appreciating that we're getting the rain, because it has really made the garden grow. The only thing is that it's kept the temperatures a lot cooler than normal for cucumbers and melons and things like that. So those really haven't gotten started yet. But let me just show you around the garden a little bit about what's going on. Our potatoes are getting pretty big. They're almost at the point where we need to hill those up as well. I did a little bit of some hilling up while I was replanting in a couple of spots where some potatoes didn't come up. So got those filled in, and then did a little hilling up around some of them that were really, really big. The Kennebecks are far surpassing the Yukon Golds. The Yukon Golds are here in the back, 2 rows, and then 3 rows here of the Kennebecks. And the Kennebecks definitely have more going on than those Yukon Golds do. In fact, I'm probably going to have to get in there and fill in on the Yukon Golds a little bit, because we had some that did not come up. They were really, really tiny little potatoes, so they didn't have a whole lot of energy left in them. So I'm not surprised that a few of them didn't come up. Had to pause it for just a moment. I'm watching my grandson again. My daughter's off at work, and he's playing with a ball right now, which can get him into trouble, because we have everything kind of situated together here with the gardening. We have done so much gardening this year with containers and things. There he is with the ball, that it can bounce into the garden. So we have to be really careful about that. So anyway, just doing some hilling up, just filling in some spaces where some things didn't come up. That happens every once in a while. And the Yukon Golds, I only had a couple of handfuls of those potatoes left, and they were really, really small, so they didn't have a whole lot of energy. But we'll get in here and fill those out with some Kennebecks in between where they did not come up really well. So we'll get that done. And then we'll fill in a couple of places where a couple of the Kennebecks didn't come up. That happens from time to time. Looks like we've got a volunteer bok choy that came up over there as well, because I had bok choy over here in this part of the garden a couple of years ago. So that would be a really old seed at this point, but that looks exactly like what that is. So maybe I'll just let that go and we'll have ourselves a little bok choy here in a little bit. So anyway, just getting some hilling up done, getting some cleaning up in the garden. There's some little wooden pieces that are coming off of that stump that's still over here in the garden. We've been dealing with that stump for a while. And some pieces come off from time to time, so I'll need to get in here, pick up some of those. And then we've had some rocks that have worked their way up out of the soil, so we'll need to get in here and get those up as well. Just some general maintenance from time to time. But I wanted to also show you the containers that we've got going on as well. We've had those in a couple of videos now, but I have finished up with planting more tomatoes. We've actually ended up with 78 tomatoes that have been planted between the garden and the containers. So 78 tomatoes, ranging from Black Prince tomatoes to Rutgers tomatoes and super sauce tomatoes, old German tomatoes, San Marzanos, black cherry tomatoes, pear tomatoes, yellow pear tomatoes, red pear tomatoes, as well as Cherokee purple. And so we've got some lemon boys, and we have a Jubilee, and we've got a couple of just standard cherry tomatoes, some Sun Sugar Gold, and some Kellogg's Breakfast tomatoes, and black Krim. We've got so many different tomato varieties going on, and we have eggplants galore as well. I ended up having 11 of my own seeded eggplants, and then had picked up a pack of eggplants thinking that those would not come on soon enough. So we ended up with quite a few eggplants. And we have planted beans. We've gotten another couple of rows in here. I just basically put the rows very narrow because I don't get the tiller in here anymore after the first tilling, so we still have room in here. So I did go ahead and plant some more beans and filled in where some beans didn't come up. And we have planted beans around our corn. And we have just so much stuff. It's just, I keep saying and because there's so many things going on. I still have a little space in the garden to plant. We planted some more carrots just a few moments ago. I planted some Parisian ox hearts, as well as red giants and some Nantes. And then we also filled in on some of the carrots, the rainbow carrots that we had. They're just basically a variety when they're called rainbow like that, scarlets and Nantes and stuff like that. So we got those planted, and we just have kept planting and planting and planting. We've got parsley that's going to seed right now. We've got onions going to seed right now. And we've got so many things still to plant. We still have a lot of flowers to plant. I've been doing a lot of weeding. We've had a lot of little weed starts that have gotten, especially lamb's quarter in here. So we've gotten in here and had to clean a lot of that out. We've had some volunteer lettuces come up here and there, so I've had to clean those up. And we've planted more lettuce. We've got 3 rows of lettuce now since we have gotten the tomatoes and things like that out of the garden. So I have to cover up the carrots that we just planted. There's a whole bunch of those in here. We have planted, actually my partner has gotten out here and planted some things, or helped plant some things as well, and started learning about different plants and stuff as well. He's putting in the effort. We've got so much more brassicas in here. I picked up some more cabbages. So we have some red acre cabbage that I got, and those are looking quite beautiful. So we have 8 of those, I think there is. And our celery is doing fantastic. I just need to add a little organic fertilizer to it and make sure those crowns do not get covered. It looks like we have one out there that may have a crown covered up, so we'll need to check on that one. We have so many broccoli in here, and you can see my cabbages that I planted from my own seed have actually surpassed the cabbages that I have purchased. We did have 4 cabbages in the back that did get cut down by ants. I've got an ant nest in that little downspout tray right there. They're underneath it, and I guess I'm going to have to put some taro in there. I hate to do that, but every cabbage that I have planted in here, or brassica at any that is in any way around that nest right there, they have cut it down. So It's difficult to see them, but it's a large nest, and they're not carpenter ants. I'm not real sure what kind of ants they are, but they're a little bit larger than these little tiny ants. So they go in and they cut the plants down. So I'm going to have to get in there and get that nest out of there. They just are being too destructive at this point. They don't touch anything but 4 plants that are right there. Everything else, they leave it alone. So I'm not really crazy ants, I guess. I got in here and filled in for some carrots that did not come up. Carrots are sometimes really difficult to germinate if you don't keep the soil as wet as it thinks. And you know what? We've had rain every single day, so you would think that we had enough wet in here. And there's a butterfly, by the way. You would think that it was wet enough, but unfortunately it looks like it wasn't. And a lot of them didn't germinate. There's that butterfly again. And I forget what type of butterfly that is. But there he is folding his wings up. But he has some beautiful orange. And he actually got on my finger just a couple of days ago, spontaneously. So, very friendly butterfly. Anyway, we've got loads of Swiss chard and beets in here. They basically look the same until the Swiss chard kind of just overtakes everything. We've got some parsnips in there, and looks like all of the parsnips did come up this time. I had trouble with those last year, and this year they just knocked it out of the park. They just all came up. So, and look at our flowers through here, guys. The flowers all along the front of the garden are just amazing. Look at all of those sunflowers. And there are a variety of different colors. I look forward to seeing them. Some of them are white, actually. Reds, purples, yellows, of course. Some Russian giants, all kinds of beautiful flowers in there. We've got calendula and marigolds and bachelor's buttons and asters, just all kinds of things. I just mixed it up. I just dug a trench, went through there and planted. And I actually covered up some of the seeds deeper than what it called for on their packet. I was just like, I'm just going to fill this in, see whether or not they actually come up. And every one of them came up. So it's just kind of crazy. I planted them deeper than what they actually call for, and all of them came up. And they're about 6 to 8 inches tall now. Look at that. Just a beautiful array of flowers going to be happening. And I basically put the calendula in little groups. You can see right there's a little group of calendula, and then another little group of calendula, and another group. So I just kept those kind of in a group because they tend to just kind of overtake everything if you don't. Nana. And I picked up another hibiscus the other day, a white one. And we planted more different squash varieties over in this section because we planted our straight neck squash over here along with some acorn squash. So, and then I planted 5 purple sprouting broccoli there in the back. Right there, and unfortunately one of them did get killed by probably just too much rain. It's just been raining so much, but the rest of them all look like they're doing fantastic, particularly one right there in the middle. That one is just getting really huge. So anyway, we've got some more squash that we planted in. We planted white pumpkins, red curries, and a delicata squash in here. And then we planted 3 rows of rainbow mixed radishes. And I planted another pack of just white radishes in 3 rows right there in the back. And I scooted everything over, got some more of the landscape fabric out. So at this point, we only have a very small area of landscape fabric left in this section. So hopefully I can end up getting the rest of that out. I just have not had time. I would love to get it all out of these flower beds. And a lot of people that are coming to look at the house because the house is up for sale, they are enjoying the fact that I'm doing all of this. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but I think it's ending up with some really beautiful rewards from it. We also planted some more flowers right here at the base of this lantern. So I've got a few flowers right there. And we have more watermelons, melons in here that I planted right in this section. We've got some sunflowers that I planted in here. These are red velvet sunflowers. Planted some more pie pumpkins right around in here in the back behind the rhubarb. And then we have another couple of varieties of radishes here. We've got a rainbow mix here, and then we have watermelon radishes. And we have some blue Scotch curled kale in this row that we just planted a couple of days ago. We've actually got 2 rows here of that. And then we have another row of a different variety of kale and bok choy. So we have bok choy in here as well. This is not pak choy, this is bok choy. So it's going to be larger. So we got to have a couple of rows of that. Then I did go ahead and plant a couple of rows of peas in here. I had some leftover sugar snap peas. These are the super snappies. So I went ahead and planted a couple of rows in here to see how they would do in this area. It's a little shaded, but it actually gets a little bit more sun on this side than it does over in here. So hopefully those will all come up. We got a couple of rows there. And then we actually have 3 rows. The middle row is actually Cascadia peas. So I just threw in some Cascadia peas for the heck of it. And then we have flowers all along the edges here. And then we have lots of sunflowers planted out in the midst of our lilies and everything out there. So lots of different things that we're planting. I'm still continuing to make hanging baskets of flowers. We have alyssum and all kinds of things. We're hearing the ice cream truck right now. During the summertime, lots of ice cream trucks end up coming through. And of course, little kids love that. So my grandson is waving his arms and saying, ice cream truck. Our squash that we planted here along the fence line are now starting to come up. They're being pretty slow because it is a little shaded over here, but they are coming up. So looking forward to all of those coming up. And we've got the strawberry crown squash in here. I have not seen those come up yet. So hopefully some of those germinate, because otherwise I'd be really saddened by that, that they didn't come up, because that packet of seeds was a little bit more expensive than some of the others. Our cilantro is coming up in our hanging basket here that we planted in, so you can see some of those coming up. And I haven't seen any oregano as yet. We planted some oregano in this hanging basket, but I'm just not seeing anything come up. But these, oregano likes heat, so hopefully if it gets a little bit warmer, those will go ahead and pop on up. And everything else seems to just be doing amazing. I did get in here and thin out a little bit of the rutabagas, so those are looking a lot better than they were. Some of them are a little smaller, going up towards that ant's nest, the ant's nest in here. So I'm thinking the ants may be aggravating the rutabagas as well. Hopefully that's not the case. I really hate to kill anything, including ants' nests, but it looks like we're going to have to. Anyway, that's what's going on here. We are at June 5th, so like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we shall see you in the next one.